Welcome into a very special edition of the Roll Jays podcast. Just 19 days away from tip-off, and the developer of player developer Steve Merfeld, professional player developer Steve Merfeld joins us here. Assistant Creighton coach. I couldn't mess that up any worse if I tried. Coach, we appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, great to be with you guys. Hard to believe the season's on us, and looking forward to it. It'll be a fun year.
Before we get started, is there anything about Casey Matthews that you miss specifically?
No.
Not even the barbecue. Casey tells us he was the king.
He was that for sure. No, we miss Casey, no question. I'm sure that there are times that he misses us as well. I mean, once you're part of a team, an athletic team, I haven't experienced anything outside of that, so I don't know, the different feeling. Obviously, being part of a team with Huddle and directing that team is exciting for Casey, but I'm sure there's times where, he really misses us. We miss him. I mean, Casey's got a great personality and always kept things light. So
I think that's the nicest thing anybody still on the staff has said about you, Case.
Yeah, I didn't expect this, but no, I certainly appreciate it. It was fun. We had a great run. See, this is where, like, if you don't know the ins and outs, like, you don't understand. Like, Murph and I spent so much time together with our duties in terms of scouting. This would be probably about 2 weeks ago to now. I probably spent more time with Murph than I spent with my family, and when you do that, like, we had nicknames and everything, where we spent a lot of time together, and there were times where it wasn't all like jovial and happy. Like, we got after each other a couple times, mostly Murph getting after me. But no, I mean, it's part of the deal, and you're trying to win games, I think. And then going off on a tangent, but the one thing I could say I learned really from Murph too is, like, Murph is the best, or if one of the best, if not the best, at, like, keeping in mind, like, developing players on and off the court are really the goal. Like, yes, you want to win games in that process, but if you lose sight of that, then really, like, what are you doing? Because, and we'll get into it, but Murph's relationship with Baylor is a huge part of Baylor, his success, with Creighton. And so, yeah, I'm getting off on a tangent, but yeah, Murph, I appreciate the kind words.
That's not the only time Casey got off on a tangent. He could do that.
Is one of the nicknames you had for him the director of player development? By the way, that's a great nickname for him.
Hold on, Jimmie. I remember, Murph. I remember when I came to meet you for the first time in your office. I was terrified. I was a student at Bellevue. I had just gotten this interview from one of your neighbors, actually, because I had coached his kid at an OSA tournament. I was terrified. I had already met one of your former players, and they told me you were the scariest man alive. And I was terrified, and it went nothing like that.
Checks out.
Like that. Murph, big softy.
Murph, would you say that hiring Alex Drake is the worst moment in your career?
There are others.
Hey,
Alex. I think Alex was one of our first years here, right, Alex?
Yeah.
I mean, we were
first year in the Big East. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 10 years ago. Look how far you've come doing podcasts with Jimmie and Casey.
I know,
Jimmie.
What a fall from grace.
Hey, before we jump into all the Creighton stuff, can I just ask this question to Murph? Because I think it applies.
He's only here for you, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Murph, tell me this. Like, obviously, the news of Coach Bennett retiring. What a heck of a coach, what a heck of a person, and the ACC just takes another loss in terms of coaches leaving that league in the last couple of years. But can you? And I know it's a sensitive deal with the NIL and all that, but, like, can you talk a little bit? Like, I looked at their roster from their championship year. The guys that played all the minutes were juniors, and then they had the freshman point guard, right? So, like, when you look at Coach Bennett and know the way he does it, what do you think is maybe not behind his retirement, but, like, what are the factors that you, as somebody who's been in this game for so long, done it at such a high level, like, put yourself in his shoes. Like, what are the things that you're thinking about right now?
Well, I think first and foremost, when it first was announced, it's like something's wrong with his health.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
I think that has been cleared up. People that I've talked to said that they, from what they know, it has nothing to do with that. What came out of it is, and I think there's a press conference today, and I don't know how much he'll get into it, but just the frustration with the state of college athletics and college basketball, I guess, in general. And Tony Bennett, Dick Bennett's one of my mentors. I know him personally. I just admired him growing up in the state of Wisconsin. And so I know the Bennett family and how much basketball has meant to them in the truest of sense of basketball, the way it's supposed to be. As Casey alluded to, the relationships, the mentoring of men, the bringing, boys and turning them into disciplined husbands, the things that, we were asked to do, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now with the NIL and the transfer portal, it's so much different to develop those kind of relationships. You have a 1 or 2 year window to do that, and it's just become really hard. And I think there's, Krzyzewski, Jay Wright, now Tony Bennett, there's others, obviously, that just the frustration with the direction that things are headed right now. And they obviously didn't get in this profession to deal with what we have to deal with in today's world. And it's just frustrating and difficult for them. And it's not surprising to me, but it's really, really disappointing to lose those kind of quality people that our profession really needs.
Is that something you struggle with to this day too, with how much different the game is from a coaching standpoint 10, 15 years ago?
Absolutely. And Casey alluded to it earlier. I mean, back in the day, you'd recruit a kid for 2-3 years. You'd establish a relationship. You'd know his mom and dad. You would know his girlfriend. None of that is relevant anymore. It's all about NIL. And it's, I'm not saying that NIL is bad. I certainly think that these young athletes deserve something, but it's totally gotten out of hand. And I more than anything, I really worry about mental health issues 10 years from now when, they are expecting to make more or the same amount of money that they are right now. And that's just not going to happen. And some of them aren't going to have degrees to fall back on because the dream is there. They're making money. They're living the life. And I don't know how sustainable it is. And I really worry about mental health issues down the road.
Alex, really quick, sorry. In your opinion, what do you think is the bigger problem facing college athletics right now? We're not looking to say for you to fix all the world's problems, but is it NIL or is it the transfer portal?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both.
Do they just go two hand in hand? Is that why?
Yeah, I think so. And they're both really difficult to deal with because it's not, there's no limitations on NIL. What one school can do, they don't have to tell you what they're getting from another school. And in the transfer portal, without having to sit, it just opens up free agency, basically. And unhappiness, where is the, the fight through that first or second year of not, being the best player. There's no stick-to-itiveness to it. They just want to, chase that apple. And sometimes that apple isn't, there's kids that are in their fourth program in 4 years because of the transfer portal. You can't convince me that that's healthy.
Murph, I kind of want to back this up, not necessarily to the college game, but I remember when I was coaching just a few years ago and back when I was on staff with you guys, there was a big push from USA Basketball going down into the youth level of outlawing zone up to a certain age and things like that. Is there a world where we start to put some of these guardrails in at the youth level to help prepare these guys for college a little bit better in what they're experiencing now? And if so, like what do you think that could be?
Yeah, I think there is. I don't have the solution to that. I know that, the NCAA tried to, and they're still involved with it, trying to put it back in the high school coaches' hands. But the high school coaches' hands are not the ones that are exposing these kids during the summertime. And there are some really, really good AAU programs that, teach kids the right way and have the discipline that allows them to really be successful at the next level. But there are also many AAU programs out there that are nothing but bidding wars for kids. And, it's similar to NIL. They're buying kids to play on their AAU team so that they can benefit for their own egos rather than bringing these kids along at a rate that, they're going to be disciplined, they're going to be tough, they're going to have a better understanding of what it's going to be like to be successful at the college level.
Do you think the explosion in terms of the amount of AAU teams is a problem in any way?
Yeah, I do. And that just becomes more of a bidding war. Okay. Like now, and when I first got into it, there was probably maybe 2 really solid AAU teams in each state. Some states just one. And they had all the best players. Now there's 2 on this team, 1 on that team, 3 on this team. They're just all over the place. And the quality of play isn't as good either. Because of that. So, and we're not talking, obviously the Peach Jam and at the highest level, that is, the top players all on similar teams, but, the Omahas and those kind of, it's a bidding war, where kids are, switching programs just like they switch high schools now. It's crazy.
Well, it's interesting we're talking about this too, because what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Murph, is I feel like the winning has been devalued to where now it's about, like, AAU basketball is about your stats. Like, did you have good numbers in this tournament? Did you go to this tournament and play well? It's not like you don't ask, like, hey, did you guys win? Like, how did your team do? And so the winning is like not as fun.
When you're playing 3 games a day, how can winning be the most important thing? It's okay. We won. All right. Where's lunch? Okay. We lost. All right. Where are we going for dinner? All right. We got one more game tonight. We lost. What time's our game tomorrow? I mean, there's just too many games being played and not enough emphasis on competing and winning, as you said.
But then I think that goes into, okay, now you are good enough, let's say, to go to college and play. And say you do go to a place like Virginia. The style of play that they play isn't going to be a run and gun, let's get your shots up, let's get your numbers up. It's, we're going to guard you for 40 minutes. We're going to play tough. We're going to play fundamental. And as you know, and I hope we get into this, those teams are better when they're older. And you leave when it's not fun, right? You leave when you're just doing the hard stuff. The winning becomes almost secondary. And so what I'm alluding to that is, like, you need an older team to be able to play that way and to be able to really coach them and do that. Now, when we're seeing our team now, with you have a Stephen Ashworth back, you have a Ryan Kalkbrenner, it feels like Ryan's in his 10th year. You've got Pop-Up, who's got a lot of experience. Jason's back. Jemiah's a transfer. Like, I mean, how do you feel about our team in terms of, like, obviously you lose Baylor, lose Trey. When you lose 2 NBA players, I think you're going to have a little bit of a step back for a little bit. Hopefully the guys develop. But talk a little bit about having Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth back and how much easier it is to coach when you've got experience at those positions.
Yeah, I'd hate to have this season ahead of us without those 2. I'll put it that way. I mean, our system is a little bit unique in that it takes a player a year, sometimes 2 years, really to figure it out. And Baylor is probably an exception because just his knowledge. He was very good his first year, but it's not the way that these kids are. Like Casey said, in AAU, how many points did I have? How many shots did I get? And that's not who we are. And breaking these guys of that, and also it's you have to do a good job in the recruiting process of. And that's where I think Mac is phenomenal in choosing, who he wants in this program to a certain degree. And sometimes that's out of his hands simply because of the NIL. But this is unique, the way that we play. And it it isn't the way that kids are used to playing. And when coaches are evaluating, they have to do a good job of, can this guy fit into Creighton? Can he play for Greg McDermott? And I think that's really, really important. And thus far, the coaches have done a really, really good job of doing that.
Well, now that you guys have killed basketball being fun, let me jump back in here. Murph, I wanted to ask, Casey brought up earlier your relationship with Baylor and how important that was. Who is somebody this year that you're really excited to kind of get your hands on and maybe work with 3-4 years down the road?
Yeah, I think the freshman class, both Jackson McAndrews, Ty Davis, and Larry Johnson have tremendous potential, but they're freshmen. It's kind of interesting. There's a couple of things that come to mind. I mean, yesterday in practice, Ty Davis was guarding the ball, and his man, he was defending, threw it to the wing, and he didn't jump to the ball right away. And both Mitch Ballack and I both pulled him aside at different times and said, Ty, that's the difference between high school and college. If you don't get in the right position, like an instant, he's blown by you. And it was evident there. Another opportunity, just talking about Jackson McAndrew, who's going to be a really, really good player. Just the physicality has really bothered him. And we're not worried about it at all, because a year in Jeremy Anderson's program, maybe 2 years, whatever, he's going to be an all Big East type player. And that's just the kind of, maturity, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that you want to recruit and bring those guys along as freshmen. If you think about how many freshmen in the Big East had an impact last year, I can think of one, Stephen Castle. Other than
that's
that,
the only one I can think of.
It's so hard, because not only the transfer portal, but also the physicality is just a whole nother level.
Murph, going into the recruiting process and all of that, how hard is it from a coaching standpoint to lay all that out for these recruits and know that you're making the right decision? But how hard is it for the recruit to initially believe all that and hear it and agree to it, and then get in there and it's not what they thought, or they can't do it?
Right. I think two things come to mind there. Number one, you have to rely on your own players to help you in that evaluation. We've had not several times, but Ryan Kalkbrenner has come to us and said, I after the visit, during the visit, we'll ask them, what do you think? And they know the difference, and they'll say, Coach, I don't think he's going to fit. I just, I don't have that feel. They don't make the ultimate decision, obviously, but at the same time, their input is very valuable. I lost my train of thought on the other thought I had. Refresh the question again, quick.
Just how hard is it for the recruit to also, hear that and agree with it, and then show up and actually live it?
Exactly. It's easy for them to say, I want to play the right way, but these habits have been established for 18, 19, in some cases 21, 22 years old now with the transfer portal, and that you don't change that. It's just incredibly hard to change those habits. So yes, I want to play the way Creighton plays. Yeah, certainly. Yeah. And it's almost impossible to do that within a year. It just, we all have habits, good, bad, and ugly, whatever. And we know how hard those are to change. But think about those as a basketball player having to change. And that's really hard. And that's where the evaluation comes in of, can this individual change for our betterment or for his betterment? Both. It's the same way. We feel like we play the game right. And not to say that somebody else doesn't, but this is who we are, and we're not changing because of you. You need to change because of us.
Yeah, that's a good point. On that note, Murph, I've got a two-parter, and they're not related, so it's not really a two-parter. But
Case, you know how I am with two-parters. I can only handle one at a time.
The second part is easy.
As he just demonstrated.
You'll be fine. We're gonna give you a couple seconds to think through it, but so you're talking about guys and how it takes time to adjust, and we're not going to change for them. So you've been to Creighton for a while, and I'm thinking on the staff there, Now you have Mitch and you have Jahens as graduate assistants. That has to be so fun for you as a coach who coached those guys. No doubt at some point you hated them and they hated you. And now you're working close with them. Can you just talk a little bit about how cool that is for you personally? Why should Creighton fans be excited about the future of the Creighton basketball coaching tree with those two? That's my first one. And my second one is just go down memory lane with us. In terms of Creighton basketball, just give us like your favorite Creighton basketball memory so far, in hopes that this year we can replace that.
Yeah. Jahens has only been here about a month, and he's done a really, really great job. So I'll probably speak more on behalf of Mitch. I think Mitch is a superstar in this profession if he chooses to go this route. And that's something I think he truly loves the game. I think he loves the relationships that he's building with these guys. And, Casey probably knows Mitch as well as anyone. He's just a people person. And it's great to have somebody like that totally understands, the process. Not only, Mitch spends a lot of time with these guys off the court as well, and just phenomenal. I truly believe he has the potential to be a Division I head coach at a very, very young age, because of his maturity, his understanding, and his ability to relate to anybody, really. And then going down memory lane, I think two things come to mind. First is the Big East championship win over Seton Hall. At CHI, and then last year's win over UConn, where we just played lights out and everything went our way, and the court was stormed. I guess both times the court was stormed, which is really cool. Those are memories that you never lose, and you share those with a lot of different people, Casey included, obviously.
Yeah.
Those were great times, and you get done and you have a group hug, and it's like, holy shit, we did it, right, Case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm partial to that Big East opener against Marquette in 2013, but hey.
Yeah.
No, and just kind of like to show you the camaraderie of the community and everything. Like for that win, that court storm against UConn, Alex and I we were getting ready to do the post game show, and we were both in the hockey box above CHI Center. We got the full overview of the entire arena getting the court stormed. It was just one of those surreal moments where you could look around the arena, and not only was the student section, everybody down the court, but everybody just kind of stopped and paused and took the moment in that was in the building.
Kind of a really cool story is Ryan Kalkbrenner's dad jumped out of his seat and was headed down the way, and his wife said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to live this thing too, and he was right in the middle of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, really, really cool.
Well, Murph, our plan long term is to probably fire Casey and hire Mitch, so we're going to probably try to derail his head coaching career for as long as we can. But we know you got. Yeah.
Good luck. Mitch is going to demand a lot more money than I do. So I can tell
we're hoping our massive checkbook here on the Roll Jays podcast is able to lure him away. Murph, we know you got to get out of here. Safe travels. We appreciate your time, and we'd love to talk to you again when the season gets underway.
That'd be great. Appreciate your time as well, guys. Thank you.
Love you, Murph. See you, man.
See you guys.
Thanks, Murph.
This has been the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. We'll be back next Friday with another special guest. We're going to try to get Jahens Maniga to join the show to talk, as well as the newest GA on the team, and get his thoughts on going from player to coach. And we'll break down more of the season as we get closer. We got a special announcement coming up here in the next week or two as well. I don't want to get that out just yet, but we're going to have a unique approach to the season. We'll just put it that way here on the Roll Jays podcast. Any last thoughts before we get out of here, boys?
No, I think I'm excited. We got to get Lucas Vargas back on too, to kind of go into some of that stuff and just see how he's doing. But other than that, no.
We try to avoid all the video coordinators. They're usually bad for this podcast.
he's the best they've had in a while. So we gotta.
It's a good point. Touche.
My only thing is, Casey, I don't know how you feel about this, but I still think Jahens Maniga has the at least top 3 Blue Jay nicknames of all time in the Canadian.
Share it with me. The Canadian. It's the first I'm hearing of it. But
It's
I wasn't
the what?
there with your hands.
Yeah, Canadian Red Bull.
Oh, I had not heard that either.
We didn't touch on this, Jimmie, but let's see, it's 55 degrees. What's going on with the full-on parka?
So the Pyramid Contractor Studio today is having some technical difficulties. We'll just put without saying anything. I'll just say it might be a little. I'm surprised I don't have an icicle on the front of my nose right now. I don't know what. I think the AC might have been left on by somebody last night, and it has not warmed up in here.
Gotcha. I mean, I knew you were soft, but I thought you were tougher than that.
No, the thermostat said 42. So.
He doesn't have any hair.
Yeah,
he doesn't have any hair to hold it in.
I don't either. Hey, I don't either. That's why we're hats. I mean, you think smarter, not harder.
I'm truly amazed that we got to 25 minutes before this got brought up. But yeah, I'm really I don't know. I got the heat on in here, and I don't know. We'll figure it out. Hopefully, I can call my friends at Controlled Comfort and get it figured out. But
there you go.
Yeah. All right, boys. We appreciate it. We'll see you next Friday. Thank you to all the people that joined, gave us the liked up. Don't forget to follow the Roll Jays podcast on Twitter and YouTube to keep up with us throughout the remainder of the season. Also, don't forget that if you want to support your favorite Blue Jay, you can do so by clicking on and scanning the code in your top right corner right now and donating to the Birdcage. It's Creighton's NIL Collective. I know we've been kind of poo-pooing NIL for the last 20 minutes, but if you want to help the Blue Jays currently on campus, you can do so and help your favorite athlete by donating to Creighton's Birdcage NIL Collective. It'll also help out this podcast as well. We'll see you next Friday here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio.